Hoo boy, it's time for the big one. Out of all the Despised Doctor Who episodes, there is one particular name that stands out above the rest. One episode which holds a very special place among the fans of Doctor Who. It is an episode that regularly finds itself on worst episode lists, and oh screw it, you already know I'm talking about Love and Monsters. The year is 2005. Doctor Who Series 1 has just ended, catapulting the franchise back into the public consciousness. The first series of so-called New Who has earned critical acclaim for its contemporary writing, compelling characters, and unique production design. A second series is already set to follow, but so is a Christmas special to bridge the gap. This is problematic because it means that the production schedule is now thick. So thick, in fact, that two stories now have to be produced side by side. To combat this issue, showrunner Russell T Davies decided that one of these stories would have to barely feature the Doctor and Rose Tyler, despite them being the two lead characters. Thus, Love and Monsters was born. Love and Monsters has one of the worst reputations of any Doctor Who episode ever, and that includes the twin dilemma. But what is it about this episode that is so bad, so utterly insulting, that it has pretty much become the most hated Doctor Who episode? And most importantly, can it be defended? Love and Monsters is an in-depth exploration of the average passers-by of the Doctor Who universe. It essentially takes background extras and puts them in the spotlight, and it's actually pretty good. Yep, I just went there. In preparation for this video, I rewatched Love and Monsters for the first time in almost 13 years, and despite its awful reputation, I really enjoyed it. Love and Monsters is actually a meta-satire of the Doctor Who community and fandom as a whole. It plays off how hardcore fans treat the show with their wild fan theories and interpretations. It is also a love letter to that same community by showing how much of a positive impact the show can have on people's lives by bringing them together and helping them to find an identity. That's what Linda represents, the Doctor Who fanbase. Just look at the scene where Bliss shows her sculpture off and struggles to rationalise its meaning.
What he could represent and what he should represent, and what he never won't represent.
That's a direct reference to people who read way too much into Doctor Who and clutch at straws trying to justify their interpretations of a TV show. How stupid are they? Oh wait, that's literally what I do. But rather than pointing and laughing at Bliss for doing this, the episode humanises her because it shows how much passion she has for this, and that it is giving her a creative outlet to express herself. That's what makes Love and Monsters so interesting and special. It balances hard satire with a warm respect to the people that keep the show going, which is kind of awkward because the fans it's paying homage to are the same fans who tell everyone it's the worst episode ever. The mise-en-scene of the episode is very much tied into the core themes of fandom and community. A lot of the episode features run-down industrial areas that create a feeling of isolation and emptiness. This was intentional because director Dan Zeff wanted to emphasise a melancholy tone to reflect the vulnerable, cast-aside nature of the Linda group. This melancholy environment also serves to further the idea that Linda and fandom can make people's lives better, because it is inside this decaying, empty and depressing environment that Linda are able to come together and enjoy themselves, making it feel warm and homely. This reflects the theme that fandom is a welcoming community that can make people feel comfortable, even if the outside world is depressing and hostile to them. This is anchored by the use of Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra. Yeah, that's right, Mr. Blue Sky. Suck it, Guardians of the Galaxy. The song is very optimistic in tone, so its use reflects the optimism that Linda meetings provide its members, despite the rest of the world being depressing. This represents the escapism and optimism that Doctor Who provides for many fans.
Because it makes me fly to another reality, which is way more better than this one.
If Linda represents the die-hard fans who have a passion for Doctor Who, Victor Kennedy represents those fans who are obsessed with ruining it for everyone else. As soon as he shows up, he's a dark presence who makes things too serious and sucks the passion and fun out of it all. This is intentional because Davies wanted to show how fandoms are nurturing and accepting communities, occasionally spoiled by so-called superfans. Not only is the Absorbalorth literally absorbing the characters, it's also a representation of how obsession can absorb the passion and enjoyment of something you once loved. There are plenty of real-world examples of this, such as the droves of YouTube channels who have been pumping out videos about how much they hate Series 11 and the 13th Doctor. I think you know the guys I'm on about. I mean, just look at the Absorbalorth. He's literally a troll. The design of the Absorbalorth is often seen as pretty stupid and pathetic. Is it the greatest Doctor Who monster design ever? Of course not, nowhere close. But I think it can be forgiven, because it was literally designed by a 9-year-old kid. In 2005, BBC show Blue Peter ran a Design a Monster competition in conjunction with Doctor Who. This was the image that won. As you can see, there wasn't much the Doctor Who design team could really do. They were contractually obliged to use this design, so they did. It's not really the fault of Love and Monsters that the monster looks this way, because any design by a young child would have looked pretty bad. Rather ironically, the following episode, Fear Her, is all about children's drawings, but that episode deserves its own video. A large focus of Love and Monsters is the humanity in the world of Doctor Who. It takes the time to ground the narrative, making it relatable and seem more realistic, because we are seeing this world through the eyes of someone who isn't special, a helpless observer of everything that's been happening. It makes the universe feel so much deeper and more lived in, because we see the direct impact of the Doctor's adventures on the insignificant population of Earth. It is rare for shows like Doctor Who to put this kind of focus on these background characters, but it does wonders for world building. It really gives you a sense of what it's like to live in this world with constant alien invasions and a 900-year-old man who runs around with a teleporting phone box. The whole concept of Doctor Who is ridiculous, but Love and Monsters makes it feel real. Not only is Love and Monsters all about developing the world of Doctor Who, it is also about giving Jackie Tyler some much needed character development. Despite appearing in a lot of episodes in series 1 and 2, Jackie Tyler doesn't really have much of a character before Love and Monsters. She's always portrayed pretty one-dimensionally, coming across like a bit of a stereotype. We only ever see what she's like when her daughter is around, because Rose is a main character, unlike Jackie, who is just a side character. Love and Monsters takes the time to add some much needed layers to Jackie's character, making her feel more like a real person. At first, she still comes across as a desperate cougar caricature, but we start to see that in reality she's just lonely and vulnerable. All she wants is companionship, because her daughter is off zipping through time and space. But despite being desperate for that companionship, Jackie won't allow herself to be taken advantage of or used, as is shown in this fantastic scene.
But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I will never let her down. And I'll protect them both until the end of my life.
This scene alone adds so much to Jackie's character, because it shows us firsthand just how much she cares about Rose and her determination to keep Rose safe. This had been shown before, like in World War III.
Because I can't guarantee your daughter will be safe.
Don't you dare. Whatever it is, don't you dare.
That's the thing, if I don't dare, everyone dies.
But it is so much more impactful in Love and Monsters because we are not seeing it through the eyes of Rose or the Doctor, and there is no looming threat of the world ending. Jackie isn't the only developed and interesting character in the episode. Elton Pope is also a fascinating character. He is purposefully written to be a regular guy, rather than some kind of geeky, acne-ridden nerd like me. By doing this, that feeling of a realistic, grounded world is furthered, because it shows just how much of an impact the Doctor has on regular, average people and how it changes them. Elton isn't a nerd or a super jock. He's just a guy. He's a true everyman that more people can relate to and project themselves onto, making him the perfect protagonist for this kind of story. Elton is also the key to understanding the narrative complexities of the episode. It is hinted throughout the narrative that Elton is an unreliable narrator, meaning the events of the episode may not have happened exactly how he says they did. Elton is shown to have a dodgy memory, since he forgot the sound of the TARDIS and why the Doctor was in his house when he was younger. Even though it's understandable that he forgot these things, it does set a precedent for the rest of his memory and how he might not fully remember some of the details from his story. Another example of unreliable narration comes from the format of the episode. Love and Monsters is structured like a YouTube vlog or video diary, with Elton directly talking to a camera to tell his story. This means what the in-universe audience see is completely different to what we, the real audience, see. We see the events as they're described, but in the Doctor Who universe, viewers would only see Elton talking to the camera. From this, we can come to the conclusion that everything we don't see from Elton's camera may not have happened how we see it. And you know what we don't see on his camera? Yep, that's right. Moaning Myrtle blowjob slab isn't real. It can't hurt you. We don't actually see her in the slab, at least not on Elton's camera, so she might not have been there at all. Although the alternative to that means Elton just dug up a paving stone and now pretends it's a person. Not sure that's much better. The paving stone is a hugely significant part of why people hate Love and Monsters.
They've even got a bit of a love life.
It's a very awkward piece of adult humour that just doesn't land. The humour in this episode is admittedly very hit or miss. When it misses hard. Alongside the blowjob joke, there's also a pretty bad fart joke placed during what is supposed to be the climactic, horrific scene of the Absorber-Lorf revealing that he has absorbed all of Linda.
What about Bliss? Where is she?
I said you really don't want to know.
Kinda takes away from the dramatic intent, don't you think? And don't get me started on the Scooby-Doo chase scene at the start. The humour isn't all bad though. The scene with Jackie and Elton in the laundromat is genuinely a great piece of comedy that subverts expectations in a good way. It's expertly written and the jokes are perfectly timed. It's a really fun scene. If any of you saw my video defending Sleep No More, you'll know that I like it when Doctor Who gets experimental. Doctor Who is one of the only shows on TV that can afford to make these kinds of wildly different, varied episodes. Love and Monsters was heavily inspired by the Star Trek episode Lower Decks and the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode Zeppo, which both focus on minor characters. I personally think this approach works really well for Doctor Who because we are so used to having the Doctor lead the narrative. However, I also understand that this is why a lot of people feel negatively about the episode. At the end of the day, not every Doctor Who episode can be for everyone. There are certainly a number of things about Love and Monsters that don't help its reputation, but I definitely feel like that awful reputation is way too harsh. It's a genuinely enjoyable episode with a unique and interesting theme that celebrates the show's fanbase and community. I actually know someone who considers it to be one of her favourite Doctor Who episodes. Much like Sleep No More, Love and Monsters tries to tell a deeply thematic story through the use of unique and creative framing. It's very ambitious and I personally respect what it tries to do, even if it will always be remembered by fans as a terrible episode.